Look at human history. What do you see? You see the towering spires of cathedrals, the intricate mosaics of mosques, the serene statues of Buddhas. You see armies marching under holy banners, scholars debating the nature of the soul, and communities coming together to celebrate sacred rites. From the earliest cave paintings to the most complex modern societies, religion has been an inseparable part of the human story. It has provided meaning, sparked conflict, inspired art, and guided our very sense of morality. But what if it never existed? Imagine an alternate world, one where humanity never looked to the heavens for guidance, where there were no prophets, no scriptures, no gods, and no faith. What would humanity become if it were left entirely to its own devices, to find meaning and purpose in a universe that offered none? This isn't a simple argument for or against belief, it's a deep dive into the profound and transformative consequences of a world without faith, a world without divine purpose, a world of humanity without religion. The Great Absence, a different human mind. To understand a world without religion, we must first confront the most fundamental change, the human mind itself. Religion has long served as a cosmic coping mechanism. It provides answers to the unanswerable questions. Where do we come from? Why are we here? What happens after we die? Without these spiritual safety nets, humanity would be forced to grapple with a profound sense of existential dread. We would be a species living in a cold, silent, and indifferent universe, with no divine creator, no afterlife, and no ultimate purpose. This lack of spiritual comfort could lead to two very different paths. One path is a deeper, more profound form of nihilism, a species overwhelmed by the meaninglessness of existence. Without the hope of a heaven or the fear of a hell, what is the point of a life that ends in nothingness? This could lead to a society driven by short-term pleasure, a moral void where only self-interest reigns. The second path, and perhaps the more likely one, is the emergence of a new kind of humanism. In this world, meaning would not be found in the divine but in the human. We would have to create our own purpose, our own morality, and our own comfort in the face of death. Science would not just be a tool for discovery, it would become our only source of truth. Philosophy would not just be an academic pursuit, it would be a universal search for meaning. We might become a species more grounded in the here and now, valuing every moment of life because it is all we have. But the intellectual and emotional weight of this reality would be a heavy burden to bear. History rewritten, the tides of conflict. Religion has been a potent force for both unity and division. Without it, the course of human history would be fundamentally unrecognizable. The Crusades, the 30 Years' War, the Spanish Inquisition, all of these conflicts, which reshaped the political map and cost millions of lives, would simply never happen. But would the world be more peaceful? Probably not. The human tendency for tribalism, for conflict over resources and territory, would still exist. Instead of religious wars, we would have wars fought over land, ideology, and power. The void left by religion would likely be filled by new, secular ideologies. In our timeline, the 20th century saw the rise of political religions like Nazism and communism, which demanded a faith-like devotion from their followers. In a world without faith, these ideologies might have emerged even sooner and with even greater fervor. Instead of fighting for God and country, people would fight for the party, the nation, or the race. While the motivations would be different, the results would be equally bloody. The wars of a world without religion would be no less brutal, they would simply lack a spiritual justification. But there is a flip side. Without religious persecution, the historical progression of knowledge would have been much smoother. Think of the persecution of scientists like Galileo, whose heliocentric theories were considered heretical. In a world without a powerful, controlling religious authority, scientific inquiry would be unfettered. The scientific revolution might have happened centuries earlier, leading to a world of rapid technological advancement. The Dark Ages, a period where much of Europe's knowledge was held and preserved by monasteries, would likely have been a very different period. Without the monasteries, would that knowledge have been lost, or would it have been preserved in secular libraries and universities? The answer is uncertain, but it's clear that the relationship between science and society would be defined by a new kind of logic, one free from divine constraints. Society without a moral compass? For thousands of years, religion has provided a moral and ethical framework for societies. The Ten Commandments, the 5 Pillars of Islam, the Eightfold Path of Buddhism, these are more than just religious texts, they are blueprints for a moral life. Without them, how would societies define right and wrong? How would we build a shared sense of community, a common bond that transcends individual interests? In a world without religion, the responsibility for morality would fall entirely on philosophy and law. The works of thinkers like Plato, Aristotle, and later Enlightenment philosophers like Kant and Hume would take on a new, sacred significance. Their ethical frameworks would become the new sacred texts, debated and discussed in every household. Human reason and logic would be the ultimate authority. This could lead to a more rational and humane legal system. Instead of laws based on divine command, we would have laws based on human well-being, on logic, and on the principles of social contract. The concept of human rights, born from the Enlightenment, would likely emerge much earlier and would be seen not as a divine gift but as a logical necessity for a peaceful society. However, without a higher power to enforce moral codes, the temptation to stray from these ethical principles would be ever present. The only thing standing between a person and a crime would be the threat of earthly punishment. The empty pantheon, art, culture, and inspiration. Think of the world's greatest art. The stained glass windows of Gothic cathedrals. The Sistine Chapel ceiling. The haunting beauty of a Requiem Mass. Much of humanity's most breathtaking cultural achievements were created in the name of God. In a world without religion, what would inspire such devotion, such ambition, and such beauty? In this alternate timeline, artists would still create, but their inspiration would be different. Instead of depicting saints and gods, they would depict the human experience in all its raw, unvarnished beauty. Art would become a celebration of life, of human love, of nature, and of scientific discovery. The great cathedrals might have been replaced by even grander museums or concert halls. The music of a world without faith would be no less profound, but it would be about the human condition, not the divine. But a crucial part of the human experience would be lost. Religious ritual and ceremony provide a sense of community, of shared identity, and of belonging. Without this, how would we celebrate the great moments of our lives, birth, death, and marriage? We would likely create new, secular rituals, but they would lack the spiritual weight and historical depth of religious ceremonies. Our communities might be more fragmented, with fewer shared traditions to bind us together. The void would have to be filled by secular institutions, from sports teams to philosophical societies, but would they ever be able to command the same kind of devotion? The final frontier, a different humanity. So, in the end, what if religion never existed? The world would be a place of both great gain and great loss. We would lose the wars fought in the name of God, the persecution of heretics, and the historical oppression of science. But we would also lose the cathedrals that took centuries to build, the comfort of a divine purpose, and the hope of an afterlife. Humanity would be a species entirely on its own, responsible for its own fate and its own morality. We would either rise to the occasion, becoming a more rational, more unified species, or we would descend into a meaningless chaos, our humanity defined by a profound and unshakable sadness. This timeline is not a simple utopia or a dystopia. It is a terrifying and inspiring look at a human race that has to learn to live with itself, without a divine hand to guide it. It is a story of a world that has to find its own meaning in the empty expanse of the cosmos. The what-ifs are endless. We've explored a world without religion, but what do you think would be the greatest benefit of a world without faith? And what would be the greatest thing that we would lose? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to keep exploring how our world could be different, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Timeline Shift, and get ready for our next adventure.